Hello there. So today we're going to go ahead and take up the homework questions from the previous lesson. I wanted to do this separately on an interactive kind of a whiteboard. And in this way, it's going to be easier for you to follow through. So again, our objective here. Okay, let's just do this. Oops, and this. So our objective here is to evaluate all of these questions as per your homework, and evaluate them one by one and sort of go through how we would solve each of these questions in turn. Okay. So obviously this is of course an order of operations question. Let's write that. So it's an order of operations. Right, and just to remind ourselves, of course, we're going to follow the BEDMAS rule. Now, the important thing to realize before we go, too far into this, is that we don't actually have in this case any brackets, so we're not going to have to worry about this. We also don't have any exponents, so really it's just a matter of going through the division and the multiplication step by step, and then the addition and the subtraction again step by step. So let's go ahead and look at how we would do this. So for the first question, again, we sort of look through this and we go, okay, well, what should we do? And of course, we know the first step is going to be to circle, right? We can actually circle directly on the question in this case. There's really no point rewriting the question for no particular reason. I'm going to call this question 1, question 2, and question 3. And let's go ahead and circle for question 1. Okay? So our first circle is simply going to be the 5. The reason why we don't continue is, of course, because of this plus sign, the adjacent plus sign. That plus sign is not going to permit us to further move through this, right? So we open the next circle right beside it. Whoops. There we go. And it's going to be the plus 3 times 2. Again, last time we had this sign, that was the issue. This time it's this sign, right? So anytime we bump into these plus or minus signs, again, we need to restart our circle. So same idea, we're going to stop right there. Again, we yield to this plus sign, and then we keep going. Now, if we stop here for a second, I'd like to show you something. So notice how pretty much in this example, and in actually the previous circle, we really ignored this. Now, why is that? We ignore this because it's not really telling us to add or subtract something. In fact, it's neither of those. We're actually going to multiply a negative number. In this case, we're multiplying -3. We are not adding. We are not subtracting. We're actually multiplying a number that just so happens to be negative. So that is not where we're going to stop or start a circle. Okay? And the rest of it gets one nice big circle like this. Okay? So let's continue evaluating question number 1 here. Right? Now we can simply write out all of our circles. So let's go ahead and do that. For circle number 1, we just end up with 5. Circle number 2 it's a positive answer, so we have 3 times 2, which is going to be plus 6. Whoops, that is a ruler. There we go. The next one, 10 divided by 5 is 2. However, there's a negative sign there. And also, we're going to be subtracting. Right? So those two signs, so let me just clarify that quickly. So this sign here is a negative sign, right? So that sign there is a minus sign. So that sign tells us we're going to have to be subtracting in this case. Cool, right? But here's the thing. we actually have a negative 10 there, right? So remember this. If we have a negative 10 and we're dividing by 5, right, we're going to end up with negative 2. But then this sign and this sign come together, right? So actually, we're going to have to be adding 2. Cool. Same idea. Over here, we have a plus sign and a minus sign. Let's go ahead and erase this one so you know which one I'm talking about. In that case, nothing really happens. It's just a minus 9. And then you have a plus 5 times 2 times negative 2. We have a plus sign over here and a minus sign right here. 5 times 2 times 2 is 5 times 2, which is 10 times 2, which is 20. However, we have a positive and a negative, so it's actually going to be a minus 20. Okay? And now we can just go ahead and evaluate this, and we get an answer of, let's just see here, 5 plus 6 is 11. 11 plus 2 is 13. 13 minus 9, that would give us an answer of 4. And 4 minus 20 gives us negative 16. Now, to check your answer, I would highly recommend getting a BEDMAS-enabled calculator. And then you can just chuck this into the calculator and see what happens. So 5 plus 3 times 2 minus negative 10 divided by 5 plus 3 times negative 3 plus 5 times 2 times negative 2, and we receive an answer once again of negative 16. Okay? And so that means it's a job well done, and we've circled properly and everything is good to go. All right, so that is question number 1 solved. Let me just clear everything that had to do with that question, and then we will start question number 2. Cool. So again, let's circle for question number 2. That's always going to be our first step. So our first circle, once again, abruptly ends right here because that is a minus sign. We're subtracting negative 4. So we will encompass that negative sign into our next circle. And this next circle actually continues for a while because this sign here is a negative sign. So that's okay. That is a multiplication sign. That's also fine. A division sign is fine too, but we're going to stop right here. So again, so far this has been our roadblock, and then this plus sign here has been our roadblock too. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to encompass this plus sign into our next part, and it will stop right there because we bump right into another negative sign. Okay, let's keep going. Another tiny little circle for the same reason. However, here, the circle can last right to the end of the question. Okay, and again, the roadblock in that case would be right here. So I'd like to stop here and let's just check and see if we did the circling properly. This is another important step when you're doing an order of operations type question, right? Did I do the question with the appropriate proper steps? That's a great question to ask. Well, first of all, number 1, right? You can actually, let's not call this number 1 because it's already question number 1. So to check, right, the first thing you can do is you can simply identify the plus or minus signs and just make sure that there's a border on each of them. But we already did that, right? That's not really a good way to check our question because we sort of did this superficially already. So the other way of checking your question is to just look at all your circles, right? So we have a first circle with just the 2, then we have this big circle over here, then we have this circle, and then we have this gigantic circle over here. So check all your circles and ensure that there is only one plus or minus in the circle, right? So basically everything else should be a multiply sign or a divide sign, right? And negatives are okay. So if it's for example like times negative 3, stuff like this doesn't count. Stuff like this is perfectly fine. Okay, I will be back momentarily. So, just returning back quickly. So as I said, we have to check and ensure all of these things, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So for the first bracket, of course, for the first circle, that's easy. It's just a 2. For the second circle, so let me go ahead and get our red going here for the second circle. For this second circle, well, let's take a look, right? I'm going to redraw the circle. I just wanted to make the red to show you guys. Right? Well, we do have this sign here that constitutes a minus, so that's there. However, this sign is a negative, so we don't have to worry about this. And this sign's also a negative, so we don't have to worry about those. Both of those signs are okay. Actually, instead of x's, we can do little check marks, right? Both of those are fine. So that is how you would check, and you would go through this process and check every single circle in the same way. And you should find that everything is all good to go. All right. Okie dokie. So let's continue evaluating. Over here, of course, the first circle, we just have an answer of 2, right? The second circle, let's decide on the sign. So we have a minus, minus, minus. That is an odd number of negative signs, which means our answer is going to be negative. And then let's just pretend all the signs are gone. So we have 4 times 7, which is 28, divided by 2, which is 14. Okay? The next circle is easy. Again, just a positive 8. The last circle is minus negative 2, which is obviously a positive 2. And the last circle, we have a plus sign and a minus sign, which means we're going to have an overall negative in that circle. And we have 3 times 2 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Okay, so 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 minus 14 is equal to negative 10. Negative 10 plus 8, that gives us negative 2. And then we have negative 2 minus 12, which is actually negative 14. Okay, so this is our proposed answer that we're going to try and check. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Again, you want to get yourself a nice scientific calculator. I have one here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it and check my answer that I've come up with. So let's go ahead and do that now quickly. 2 minus negative 4 times 7 divided by negative 2 plus 8 minus negative 2 plus negative 3 times 2 times 2. And we receive an answer, once again, of negative 14. Okay? Cool. That means we're done this question as well. All right, wonderful. Let us now move on to the very last and final question here, question number 3. And again, I'm going to erase everything that had to do with the previous question, so just give me a minute here. Cool, same idea. Let's go ahead and circle. So we have 3 minus negative 2. All this is perfectly fine to go in one nice big circle, right? Now, that may be a jump for you. So let's check quickly. We have a minus sign right here. That can be our roadblock. And then we have 2 more positive or negative signs. They're both negative signs. There's no positive signs, and both of these signs do not indicate an operation of subtraction. They're simply there to tell you that we're multiplying or dividing a negative number, not a positive number. So that's good to go. Cool. Let's move forward. All right. We have another little baby circle here. This circle is good to go all the way to the end. All right. So let's go ahead and evaluate each circle now. So we have 3. In the case of the second circle, let me go ahead and erase this, and I can show you each of these negative signs and how they contribute to a positive or negative answer. So we have a negative sign here, a negative sign here, and a negative sign here. All 3 of these negative signs means we're going to have a negative answer. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is going to give us back to 4. 4 divided by 2 gives us back to 2, right? So another way of doing that is to say that 4 divided by 2 divided by 2, that just gives us 1, and then 1 times 2 gives us 2. So I can be confident of my answer of 2 there. Plus 2, nothing special for that circle. And the final circle, we have 2 times 2 divided by 4. Oh, first of all, it's a negative because we have a positive and a negative sign. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is equal to, well, I guess just 1. And then 1 times 3 is equal to simply an answer of 3, right? 3 minus 2 plus 2 minus 3 gives us a final answer of 0. Okay? Again, we're going to check this quickly by plugging this into our beautiful calculator. So 3 minus negative 2 times 4 divided by 2 divided by negative 2 plus 2 plus 3 times 2 divided by negative 4, and we receive an answer of 0. Okay? So, that is your homework. That is the take-up from the previous video. Hopefully you found this sort of intuitive and easy. And if you're good to go with this, it's time to move on to the next part. Okay? See you then.